and welcome to TechNow, the web series for ServiceNow admins, builders, developers of all skill levels on a wide variety of topics on the Now platform. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chuck Tomasi. We have a wonderful, wonderful set of just fun stuff for you today. But before we jump into that, let's tell you a little bit about who is presenting and who's behind the scenes today. So, as I mentioned, my name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Advocate. Been with ServiceNow since 2010, was a customer for a couple of years before that. And, well, we'll skip out all the dinosaurs roaming the earth and fossils and, vacuum tubes and that kind of thing. But it has been a long history for me. A lot of stuff. If you want to talk about that sometime, love to go to a meetup, love to catch you on Zoom sometime, and we can discuss. Hobbies and whatnot are all listed there. But in the interest of time, I'm going to turn it over to Craig Stepp for his intro.
Yes, I haven't been here as long as Chuck has. I think Chuck was here when trees were invented. But I've been here for a little while myself. And I am the senior manager at Cloud Labs, and I do a lot of the back-end infrastructure. Myself and my team actually do all the back-end infrastructure for a lot of the classes and that you may have taken with ServiceNow, or a lot of the events you've gone to and had some of the interactive workshops. Some of that work is mine in the background. So, and I will turn it over to Mr. Jeremy.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. My name is Jeremy Duncan. I'm a platform architect here at ServiceNow. I've been in the IT space since 2005 and became a customer around 2011. Fell in love with the platform. I actually see the gentleman, my boss at the time, on this webinar today. So, hey, Jim, nice to see you. But he started this love affair.
You're doing shout-outs now.
That's right.
Well, I just had to, because he started this love affair for me by giving me the opportunity to work on this platform about a decade ago. So since then, I've moved on as a consultant. I worked for a consulting firm and did implementations for large enterprise, commercial, and federal customers. Was honored to speak at Knowledge 13 and have been an active participant in Knowledge ever since then. Alma mater is MTSU here in Middle Tennessee, and I am also a ServiceNow certified master architect. Just a fun fact about myself, I am a reserve or auxiliary police officer here in the city of Hendersonville, where I live. And I do love to camp with my wife and kids when I find free time away from everything else. So pass it back to Craig for the agenda.
All right, so today Jeremy's going to be talking about getting connected using IoT and ServiceNow. We're going to talk about some IoT trends, and of course, we'll go through all the demonstration and Q&A towards. Actually, we'll do a little Q&A as we're going through the whole thing. And let me change slides here. And of course, don't forget, Chuck Tomasi does the Breakpoint podcast. I think we've met that Chuck Tomasi guy before. Oh wait, we did at the first live.
He's a hack.
I think I've heard about him.
Yeah. Speaking of hacks, what you got coming up on Breakpoint, Chuck?
We have tomorrow, September 29th, release date. It'll be available after that, but releasing tomorrow is a discussion with Brad Tilton and Earl Duque. This is the first episode. I've got three people talking at the same time. It took us this long to get there. But we are going to be talking about Hacktoberfest, which is a contest run in the month of October, as the name implies, to get people interested in open source and sharing. And as my prelude says, ServiceNow may not be the first thing you think of when you think of open source, but we do have source control, and you can do collaboration and sharing, and we've got at least 5 different projects for people of different skill levels to contribute to. So join us for that discussion.
Okay. It's
going to be a lot of fun. So that comes down tomorrow. Then we've got another follow-on to our presentation series with Julian Mills coming soon. So we aren't just talking technical stuff. We are talking practical things that developers of all skill levels can take advantage of. So our presentation series with Julian continues. We had preparation a couple of months ago. Now we're getting into top 10 things you shouldn't do, or how to nail down the message and deliver it. There's so much more to talk about on that venue. So technical, product-related, skills, soft skills, Breakpoint's got it all. So join us for that audio podcast. You can see the link right there, bit.ly/sn-breakpoint. I don't know why I didn't update that. It should be devlink.sn/breakpoint, but we'll update the slide. It must be a copy pasta error. Next
Yeah.
one, Craig.
All right. So speaking of all this development stuff, you can go try out some of the things that we talk about on the show, or other things. Maybe you have some ideas of your own. You want to give it a shot. Give it a shot to try and develop maybe something outside of your production instance, because you should never do work on your own production instance. So you can go to developer.servicenow.com, sign up for your own free ServiceNow instance so you can play around with it. But not only that, but there's a lot of other resources on there. All the documentation from the server and the client API, a lot of guides, all kinds of stuff to get you going in testing out your own ideas in ServiceNow. So you can go over to developer.servicenow.com and sign up for your own instance. And speaking of development and continuing on the IoT discussion that we're starting today, mark your calendars, because next time on October 26th, we're going to have another TechNow Tuesday with Jason McKee, and he's going to be talking about his kegerator. So if you were at Knowledge 19, you may have seen his work, or at least tasted it, right? Maybe because it was serving up beer, and Chuck was attesting that it wasn't running out either. So anyway, go check that out, or check it out when it comes out. That's October 26th, and you can find the link for that and a lot of these other resource links in the lower right of this presentation right now.
Just
and of course,
quick
I think we'll include these on the.
Sorry, go ahead.
We'll include a lot of these links in the show notes when we're done back in the community.
Yes. And this is only the second of our Deconstruct series. We did one a couple of years ago on the Jeopardy game that I had written. It's a fun way to break down how is this constructed, how is it architected, what are the bones that make this go. So it really lets you peel back the covers of what at first may seem like a gimmicky kind of demo. Oh no, there's some serious tech that goes on behind these, and we want to show you different ways you can implement this, because this isn't your grandfather's ticketing system anymore. This is very appropriate to a lot of processes, and you can apply something like this, which may go, oh, that's fun. You don't run out of beer at a conference. But think about it in terms of medicines. Think about it in terms of supply chain management. Think about it in terms of manufacturing. There are so many practical uses for things like this. So just like today's episode, there's more that you could. Jeremy's going to hit on some of those use cases, so I don't want to steal his thunder. Very exciting stuff.
So all these ridiculous projects that we keep coming up with are all to get the wheels turning in your head and see where you can apply them in your own world. So speaking of which, if we haven't given you enough resources to learn about ServiceNow, here's another one. Here's another opportunity. Now at Work 2021. This is a regional conference that happens, from about summer through the fall, and this is a great one. This is, I think it's happening in Japan and everything now, but this one is for the U.S. So if you're, it's in your time zone, come on in. It's October 13th and 14th, and from what I understand, the 14th is more of the CreatorCon side. So getting more towards developers and building things and all that. So you can register for free. Again, all these links are down in the lower right-hand side, and we'll put links to these in the show notes once the show is done. So that said, I'm going to turn over to Jeremy, and we can watch him hook up stuff to ServiceNow.
Cool. Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining today's TechNow episode, which is all about getting connected with IoT and Now. So if you do a quick search on the interwebs, you'll find that IoT topics are dating back over 2 decades ago. But the term IoT, which stands for Internet of Things, was coined by Kevin Ashton in '99. He worked for Procter & Gamble, and he was working on supply chain enhancements. He's trying to better the supply chain using RFID. So RFID stands for radio frequency ID and identification. And you'll experience that if you try to steal something from Walmart and you didn't check out, right? You didn't deactivate that RFID tag. It's going to beep. So there have been optimizations around supply chain using those or using that technology. And it was exciting and new back in the late 90s. Well, as the internet has grown up, right, we've gone through multiple generations of internet technology with 3G, 4G. Now we're in the 5th generation of the internet. It's made things like what we are going to see today possible. Now, of course, this concept of IoT, which, the core word there is internet, but the concept of machines talking to each other have been around since the 1800s. The old telegraph, the old landline technology, which my kids will never understand or care about because everything's wireless, right? It's been around since then. But if you fast forward today, like I said, we're combining the power of these IoT devices, these small computers, which, by the way, we've got computers that can fit on the end of your finger that can fit on a grain of rice, right? So if you've got these computing devices that are doing nothing but passing data back, right? And so what we're finding as I move on into our trends conversation, but before I do that, wanted to preface IoT and get everybody on the same page with me there. We do have to cover the safe harbor slide, and this is just a quick slide that protects me from any forward-looking statements that I may make, which may differ from what the future holds. So don't hold me accountable. I may give you a preview of what's to come, but if it doesn't come when I say it's going to come, right, this just says, hey, I didn't do that on purpose. Okay. So we're going to talk about some trends. So that's the why behind why we're here today, is talk about some of those trends and how ServiceNow responds to that. Then we'll talk about the transformational challenge, right? What's going on behind the scenes? What makes it hard for us to get today using the technology that enables us to do these things? What's getting in the way? And then we talk about how ServiceNow can help, and then I'll jump into an instance and show you how this is not smoke and mirrors behind me, right? So we'll talk about the trends. So today there are over 31 billion embedded internet devices floating around out there. The bigger picture here is the money that's being spent on IoT in the world. So we're seeing, and all this is market resource. The source is IDC, as you can see below. Over 74.2 billion global spend on IoT. We're estimating to see over 40 billion devices by 2025, which produces over 79 zettabytes of data, expected by 2025 as well. So if you can imagine how many gigs and teras and peta and zet, right, we start going up, imagine how much data we're talking about. So the sad part about all that is most of the data that's collected from these devices, remember these little microchips that have one purpose in life, and that's to say, hey, this thing is this hot, or the humidity is this, right? Those tiny little computing devices are spitting out data, but it's just sitting in places, right? So McKinsey Global Institute said that less than 1% of the data generated by 30,000 sensors on an offshore oil rig is used to make decisions. So less than 1% of that data, right? So you got 99% of the data that's just sitting there that provides no value back, right? And it's mostly because folks don't know what to do with the data, right? It just sits in a data lake. There's no connectivity between the device that is reading and the workflow that needs to happen, right? So that gets us to the challenge, right? So even for the companies who understand IoT, have already invested in IoT, the challenges that they have internally is really, there are many factors involved, right? How do we gain business value from the data? How do we get it out of the disparate systems that it's sitting in, right? And how do we get our teams connected in the process, right? So the solution that ServiceNow has come up with is say, hey, we've got this platform that already inherently connects things together, right? So today I'm not going to talk to you about a Marvel concept that ServiceNow is just now connecting things together, because we all know that that's not true. I demonstrated, as I mentioned before, I've been honored to speak at some of our events, and in one of our Tech Summit events, you see the airplane up here behind me right there. I actually demonstrated with a teammate of mine, Tom Cullen, the power of IoT and our platform, right, before we produced a product that actually does it for you. And I'm going to highlight that today, right? But ServiceNow is really that integrated system of action, right? We've been doing this for a long time. Today, again, I'm going to mention a product that enables us to do this in large volumes rather than just 1Z, 2Z, or 10Z, 20. We're talking hundreds of thousands, right? So anyway, so we're looking for that end-to-end solution, right, so that we can be proactive instead of reactive, right? We want to look at that data. We want to make decisions ahead of time, right? We've got data scientists out in the real world who are looking at vibrations on machines and saying, hey, if it vibrates at this wavelength for more than this time, we've got to make a decision on that, right? So again, the challenge has not been, is the data available? It's connecting that data to actual workflow, things that are generated for us to take action, and even automated action, which again we'll demonstrate today. All right, so to put that into real terms, how does ServiceNow do that? Right, we take the conventional IoT architectures and we invoke action via dashboards and ticketing systems that send emails and alerts. But beyond that, we do automation, right? Because getting a record or a ticket and getting a ding on your phone, that's all great. But maybe we need a visual indicator like a light that sits behind me. Maybe we need something, right? I can think back across the years of my IT experience, and I can remember sitting in a room with my leadership and them saying, look, all these numbers are great, but can I just get a red light, yellow light, green light? Like, are things good? Are they about to be bad? Are they bad? Right. So I kind of took some of that and put that into this demonstration. But as we talk about, okay, what product, how is ServiceNow responding to that? We're doing that with connected operations. Okay. A component within connected operations called the IoT Bridge is enabling these devices that you see there on the left. So you've got like windmills, you've got refrigeration systems. So if you think like going to the grocery store, whatever your Publix, Kroger, whatever your local chain is, they've got slews of refrigerators, right, keeping your food cold. You can even think like equipment, heavy equipment out in the field. All of these things are connected today. They're producing data. But we bring that data in via the bridge, right? And again, not just one or two data points. We're talking thousands of data points, right? I think our number today is up to 5,000 messages per second. And then per customer, we're talking up to 100,000 devices. So do the math, right? We're talking a lot of data that gets to pass through the bridge to then rest on your instance once you've determined whether that data is worth looking at or not. So there's some rules engines. There are some notes here on my whiteboard that you'll see. These are key terms. So as I'm talking and as I'm moving about the system, I want you to keep these key terms in mind. But the rule is where we're gonna take that data and we're gonna process a rule, and then we're gonna say, hey, but if we see this data come in, we want to go take action on it. The way we take action is using out-of-the-box applications that folks may know and love today, one of those being field service management and customer service management. The other one would be App Engine. Build your own, right? If we don't have something off the shelf for you, you have the power to go build your own. And by the way, in the Rome release, you've got enhancements to the App Engine Studio. You've got ability to build mobile. The possibilities are endless when it comes to building solutions on our platform. But let's take that field service management and customer service management example. Let's say you have a wind turbine that's rotating and it stops rotating. Well, we know that if it stops rotating or if it goes below a certain speed, we're going to lose power to our customers. So we may need to interact with a field service team to go be dispatched with the right part to fix that. But in the meantime, we also may need to reach out to our customers, right, and say, hey, probably going to experience an outage. It may be a small blip, but just wanted to give you a heads up, right? Keep those phone calls from coming in, giving them a heads up, and keeping that customer service interaction with your customers a happy one, right? So digging in a little bit more on how we do that. So I mentioned the applications that you see and can go purchase, which is connected operations, field service management, customer service management. Behind the scenes, as I mentioned, you've got these I would call dumb devices. It's probably not the correct term these days because a lot of these devices are doing some pretty smart stuff, but all they're doing is sending data. Well, the IoT Bridge, again, which is a component of connected operations in the ServiceNow platform, is handling that data brokerage, right? It's handling the exchange of that data, and it's coming in large volumes. So that's the Marvel thing. That's the new thing that ServiceNow is doing, is it's handling that large amounts of data. And then using connected operations, you actually have this digital twin. So for instance, this the sensor behind me, the hygrometer that you see right there, we're going to see a digital twin of that hygrometer today. All right. We're going to be able to watch that thing in real time and see what it's doing. We're going to understand how humid it is in this room, how hot or cold it is in this room. And then we're going to be able to create rules that can then go take action based on whether it's hot or cold. So right now you can see that lamp behind me is red. It is in fact red. It looks a little washed out. I tried, but I put some stuff around it so you can see the color change. But right now it's red. So I've got some things in the system today that say if our humidity is a certain level, then I want it to be red. So it's doing its job right now. So another cool element that you're going to see with connected operations, just a kind of a plug, so this is one of those forward-looking statements, just a note here, is the ability to use our performance analytics capabilities, right, historical performance analysis to be able to visualize and see the health of your devices over time, right? And so kind of like getting a look back in Google Finance or Yahoo Finance where you can go back and say, hey, what was this stock doing on Monday at 10 a.m.? What was the performance, right? Think about manufacturing, right? You've got machines that are continually having issues at this certain time on this certain day. How do we use this data? Again, it's all about being proactive, taking the data that was disparate before, sitting in other systems, bringing it in so that we can, again, be proactive, make decisions on that data as it sits in ServiceNow. So a little bit deeper dive in the architecture for you techies who want to know. So behind the scenes, again, we take that device on the left, so taking that windmill, that refrigerator, we get a message. That message may contain different data points, right? For instance, this is bringing over the date, the device ID, and the temperature. And we're going to take a look at the sensors behind me to see what they're doing. Well, they go to that ServiceNow endpoint, and what you're seeing represented here is the bridge. All right, so within the bridge, we're storing, and then we're going to forward that data into your instance, into the customer instance. So before, imagine if I would have tried to do this demonstration that I mentioned before, where we've got data from an airplane, right? Lots of data coming in, and we try to feed that into the ServiceNow instance. There's potential that we're going to have performance issues depending on how much data we're sending. So this bridge, right, the concept of the bridge, which again is part of that connected operations application offering, handles that for you. And then on the far right over here, you see ServiceNow represented as the platform. So your customer instance, your platform, is then able to take that data and do things like analytics, integrate with other systems, provide business workflows, reporting, and be able to see, as I mentioned, that digital twin of that device. So just to kind of put that even more into real world context, there are enterprise solutions out there that already exist for IoT. As I mentioned earlier, there are already organizations that are invested here, right? You may have experienced ThingWorx, InfluxDB. We recently pinned a partnership with Intel, so you'll see there at the bottom, Intel IoT Solutions Alliance on the list. Connected operations on the ServiceNow platform plays nicely with these existing IoT solutions, and we differentiate ourselves by having the ability to bring that data, again, into our ServiceNow workflows to automate, right? Automate the world that we live in, or at least get the folks that can go fix the problems involved, right? So you've got either way you want to go, you can build it on our platform. So how do we do that? You'll see some things today as we navigate through connected operations in ServiceNow. You'll see things like the operations incident. So much like an incident in IT or a case in human resources or customer service, we've got this concept of a record that has all the information that you need, right? It's got all the information that you need to be able to investigate, triage, and remediate the issues that you're seeing based on the data that you're bringing in, right? Also, you have these other connected workflows. So as I mentioned earlier, you've got out of the box, you have field service management, customer service management, right? Think of App Engine here as well, right? So you've got XYZ application that you as our customers have created that we can interface with, that we can interact with, right? So that we can go connect the disparate data from before to workflows on our platform. So connected operations, though, as I mentioned, if I haven't been articulate about it enough already, it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? It's the piece that sits between the world of billions of devices and zettabytes of data and your system of action, which is ServiceNow, right? Our platform. So below that, as I mentioned before, field service management, a little repetitive here. You've also got App Engine, which falls in that creator workflow. So ServiceNow's marketing over the years has changed. But today you see things broken up as customer workflows, employee workflows, creator workflows, right? So you'll see those named that way as well. So wanted to just kind of give you a different view of that. But just to let you know that connected operations, again, is really just the face of a lot of things going on below the scenes or behind the scenes on our platform, which is, remember I mentioned 10 years ago I started, it was a lot of focus on IT, and I've seen our platform grow exponentially into so many different areas of the business. And so it's just so awesome to see us keeping up and investing in our customers' needs to really just make life flow, right? We've said our slogan in the past has been make work flow. I would advocate we're making life flow. And so I hope today, as I demonstrate to you how we take that data, we bring it into the instance, we workflow it, right? We take that and we apply a workflow that you can take action. So this is going to be a visual representation, and I would encourage you to think of those real world examples. So we'll have in October, we'll have Jason McKee talking about the kegurator. So in place of the lamp here, think about the kegurator, right? So we have an endpoint that we want to control. We want it to do something in response to the data that's coming in. So the tech behind the scenes today, you're going to see a Raspberry Pi 4. That's that thing that's scrolling behind me. That is a Raspberry Pi that has a SenseHat device that's sitting on top of it. So really, in turn, that is a sensor that's producing data, but we're really not using it as a sensor today. I just wanted you to see that you could. We're using this Raspberry Pi as our MQTT broker. So I didn't dig into this earlier. I probably should have. But the way we transact the data between IoT devices and ServiceNow is using MQTT or HTTP, right? Those are the two methods. So we're starting with the data that's going to stream in is from this hygrometer right here. It's the H5075, and it is a Bluetooth-only device. It's not wireless enabled, so I'm going to show you how I'm able to do that, bring in data over Bluetooth into the Pi. And then we're going to go in the interwebs. We're going to go through ServiceNow. We're going to do some flow. We've got some rules that we're going to build, some that are already pre-built, and we're going to make a determination based on the readings from the hygrometer. And we're going to turn that lamp a color based on the readings. So right now, as I mentioned, it's red. We're going to turn it a couple of different colors. And we're going to be using, again, an IoT rule, 2 subflows, and 1 action to make that happen. Okay? Remember the key terms on my whiteboard over here. Just keep those in mind as we go through that. Okay, so now it's time for a demonstration, and let me start my screen share.
Hooray!
Got through the slides.
This audience loves our demos.
Yep.
All right, show us something good, Jeremy.
All right, show you something good.
That's right. Wake up now.
Can you see my screen?
I believe so.
Okay, perfect. So we talked about that data flowing in from the left. How do we get from the device to ServiceNow? Today I'm using the Raspberry Pi, as I mentioned, as an MQTT broker. As you can see, I'm using Node-RED here, which is a more graphical way to pass the data rather than writing Python script and showing you a bunch of script. I'm showing you kind of a flow way of doing that before we get it to ServiceNow. So I've got this BLE scanning node that I got from the community in Node-RED, which is basically looking for any BLE device from Govee, which is the vendor I'm using today, and passing that through this flow. So we take the data that it's passing through and we use MQTT. So what I'm about to show you is defined in ServiceNow. I'll show you where to go find this information, but I wanted to start here to kind of show you where this data is coming from before we get it over there. We are using a topic, which is dependent on the device ID, which we, again, have already created in ServiceNow. I'll walk you through that. And then we've got our server, which is the server that we're using the port definition, all of that I'll show you, right? You will also have to have a username and password, and I'll show you how to do that in ServiceNow as well. But again, just wanted to show you all of this data is passing through that MQTT path. And as you can see on the right-hand side, looks like our timing is about right. We've had a lot of data coming through every second. What this device is passing me is humidity and temperature. Those are the two things that I care about, right? In refrigeration, which is the example we're going to use today, humidity and temperature are very important. So as you can see represented behind me, we've got a vaccine. Actually, you probably can't see it anymore. But if you remember, there's a vaccine refrigerator is what we're pretending that this demonstration is representing. That refrigerator has to stay a certain temperature and humidity, or we lose our vaccinations, which is a lot of money and potentially lives, right? So we want to make sure that that thing is doing what it's supposed to do. So we're taking that data and we are passing it over into our instance, okay? So remember, this is representing an instance that does have Connected Ops installed. So you won't be able to go download this or grab a personal developer instance and be able to play with Connected Ops. You'll have to come back and watch watch this again if you want to see this in action again. Or if you decide to go purchase it, get with your account rep and go try it out. But we do have to spin up that IoT Bridge infrastructure behind this instance, which is why you can't just play with it today. But keep an eye out in the future, and we'll have more videos that will explain what we're doing here. So as you saw in Node-RED, I had a port defined, I had a host that I had defined, and then I had a topic that was defined as well. All of this information is provided out of box via the left-hand filter navigator. You can type in IoT Bridge details, and it will show you the details of your instance. Obviously, your host name would be different, but the way the topic is defined and the dependency on the client ID will remain the same. There is a username and password that does use a token and use your device ID as a part of that username and password combination. I'll show you how that's done as well. That is using MQTT. You can also use HTTP as well. There's your URL and then your authorization header. Now let's jump over into the workspace, the Connected Ops workspace, and see what kind of information we have. So your home screen is going to show you a map of all your equipment location, its status, whether it's operational or not, and any incidents that you have open in regards to those devices. Now, this can be modified using UI Builder. We have sessions, TechNow sessions, where you can go take a look at how our Now experience and workspace and portal are modified. So check those out. But today we're going to depend on what's out of box. But what's important within this workspace are, based on the terms that you see here on my board, are your devices, your events, and your rules. So as I mentioned before, we do have a hygrometer. I'm going to drop my webcam over here in the bottom right so that you can see what I'm talking about. We've got our hygrometer here. So we're going to jump over to devices, and we're going to check that out. Okay. So I had this filtered and sorted before, but it went away.
As you can see, when you need it to be right.
I know, right? So we have a couple of sensors. For this demonstration, I did set sensor 2 as the one that we're going to use, which is, again, that hygrometer. And within that sensor, which, by the way, this is an asset, so extending your CI table, this is an asset which has a location, which enables you to track serial number, asset tags, things like that. So this not a new concept here. But as we drill into the asset, we do have a connected device that provides a device ID. So as you remember before, over in our IoT Bridge details, that device ID is very important. Okay? And then within that record, within UI 16, for security purposes, I'm not going to show you my key, but you can actually click into that sensor and get the key, which is the username and password, to configure in your MQTT broker. So hopefully that helps you understand how the asset is generated in ServiceNow, how it's going to be used by Connected Operations to then go make a decision. Okay? So let's jump back over into our list. And then we're going to look at the digital twin. So this, as I explained before, the digital twin is the representation of that sensor on a dashboard. So it shows us where it's located, because remember, we've defined it as an asset. Okay, it has a location, and it's also got data that's coming across. So as you can see, the data that we see here is 74.21 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've got a relative humidity of 49%. All right. So how do we take that data and take action on that data? All right, we've got the device hooked in, passing the data, we see it. Now, what do we do with it? So when we define that asset, we did say, what are we bringing over with the asset? So I'm going to jump back into that and look at what am I missing? Let's see here. We want to look at the properties that we're sending, and I was going to see if I had defined that here. You do on the, and unfortunately we don't have enough time today to actually walk through configuring each one of these devices. But when we defined this sensor, we said, hey, this sensor is actually going to bring over humidity and temperature. Oh, it's in the definition, I'm sorry. So another key term, digital twin definition. So that is what is created on the onset of creating this asset. As you can see right here, we've got these things called operational attributes. So again, for this device, it's only doing humidity and temperature. However, I wanted to show you out of the box different units that you have. You've got tracking gigabytes, gibibytes, kibibytes, knots, liters, megahertz, right? Just to show you there's over 200 of these options. But again, for today, we're using the units of degrees Fahrenheit and humidity, okay? So those operational attributes are defined on each device to provide the data for the digital twin. So again, jumping back over into how do we take action on this? Well, we're going to create a rule, right? So for the demonstration, I've already created two rules. One is a red alert and one is a green alert. So right now, the lamp is red, okay? And the reason it's red is because we've established that when this asset, this sensor, reads a humidity that's greater than 44, we have an event that's triggered. And that event is turning the light red, which runs a flow. That flow is hooked in with this Govee lamp via a spoke that we created. And I should have enough time to walk you through how we got there. But I want to kind of show you the end of the book before I dig in deeper. Okay, and we're actually going to generate one of these as well. So let's go check out the green alert. So we're going to go back to our list. We're going to check out our IoT rule, and we're going to look at the green alert. How do we make this lamp turn green? Right? So if this sensor, TechNow 2, which again we've determined is my hygrometer, detects a humidity between 30 and 44, we're going to run the flow IoT green alert, TechNow IoT green alert. So to demonstrate that, if you'll take focus here on this screen in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm actually going
Jeremy, is that a flow or is that a subflow?
Subflow, good catch. You caught me before and I failed to remember, so I apologize. It is a subflow. We have subflow and action that are working together here. So as you can see on the camera, we're dropping. Let's jump back over to our digital twin. We're going to go over to sensor 2, and we're going to watch this bad boy drop. Okay, we're at 41, 40, 42. So we're near real time on the digital twin. This is a demonstration environment, so might have a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's moving actually pretty quick.
Yeah. So we're going to watch that thing go, and looky there. It turned green. So if you can think about the vaccination concept, right? You've got pharmacists that are working in a pharmacy that have this white refrigerator behind them with vaccines in it. By the time they might get a ding on their phone that says, hey, your refrigerator's acting up, hey, they may still get that ding, or they may, get an email and say, hey, somebody's going to go come check it out. How awesome would it be to give them a visual indicator the moment that happens, so that in case that ding doesn't happen, or in case that person doesn't pick up the phone, they can be proactive, right? Because time is money when it comes to refrigeration and things warming up inside that refrigerator, right? So we take that data and we take action on that. Now, the action, again, is limitless, right? So we're connecting to this lamp using an open API that we were able to construct in an action, which is represented as a spoke in Integration Hub. So I put that on the whiteboard over there, iHub spoke. So as you're looking up products and things like that, that'll help you understand where we've defined that. And we'll take a deep dive in that. But before we take a deep dive under the covers and look at how we made that action happen, or even how we designed the flow, let's go into connected operations and let's create a new rule. Okay? So we're going to jump back over to our IoT rule. And I just remembered that I actually deleted the subflow earlier because I wanted to walk you through that as well. Okay? So before we do that, actually, we do have to define the flow that we're going to use when we take action on the data that's coming in. So we're going to go into Flow Designer in ServiceNow. Question?
No, I'll just clear my throat. Excuse me. Sorry.
Cool. You're good. We're going to create a subflow, and we're going to call it TechNow Purple Alert. Okay? Because let's say if it's too hot or too humid, it's red. But if it's right in that good threshold of temperature and humidity, it's green. We're good. But we can also be too cold, right? And so a good color might be purple, right? If we get cold, our lips turn purple. So let's do purple. Let's turn the light purple. So we're just going to call it TechNow Purple Alert. Let me take the video away. And we'll submit. And so within this subflow, we really just want to take action. We're going to define an action because we're going to tell the rule when we want this flow to happen, so we don't have to build all that logic, which is why we're using a subflow, right? We don't have triggers here. We just have action, right? So within the action, we're going to type in Govee because that is the product that I'm using. And we're going to use the only definition in the spoke that I've created, which is just update the lamp color. Okay, so the action we're taking is updating the lamp. For folks who have used Integration Hub before and used other spokes, you will find many options depending on what spoke you're using, right? You have different options there. So we're actually going to set this color purple. We're going to define that. The MAC address, I've actually made it meaningless here. It really doesn't matter because I've hard-coded that, but just wanted to show you that you can use that because those are values that are required to pass to their API to make the magic happen. And let me go steal my model number from another subflow, excuse me. Right here, there's my model number. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, we want that thing to turn purple. Let's go ahead and save the flow and publish it. Now jumping back over into the Connected Operations workspace, where, again, we have our devices, our events, our rules, our digital twin, which we were just watching as we were watching the values change. We're going to go back in and we're going to create a rule for that purple light to happen. All right, so we're going to go new. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to take our hygrometer out, and we'll watch that thing go back to red. All right. And while I'm doing that, we'll go ahead and define this rule. So we're going to name this TechNow IoT Purple Alert. Okay. Fridge is too cold or too dry. Okay. We want to know when this thing is too cold or too dry. So we'll hit continue. And so once we hit continue, it takes us to the definition of this rule, right? And so we have to pick what device that we want to use. So our digital twin that we care about is the TechNow refrigerator sensor number 2. And we'll hit continue. So for that asset, we want to know when something happens that we want to go do something. So the attribute that we care about in this case is humidity, mostly because I can control humidity really quickly. Temperature, it takes a minute, so wanted to be able to get through it. So we take our connected attribute of humidity and we hit continue. And here's where, again, I can't stress enough that beyond the setup of the action, the spoke that you're using for Govee, which required very little coding. We're talking a simple put call. This is very low code, right? That capability. Nobody's having to write any Python, not having to script anything. So we say the humidity is less than 30, right? Because we've determined that if it's less than 30, it's probably too dry and too cold. And again, we can add another condition of temperature if we wanted to. And earlier, I defined between values, so you can actually do inside or outside of a range, which is important as well. But for this one, we're just doing below 30. And for this, we're going to create a new event to tie the event to the flow. Right? We've got red, we've got green, we've got yellow, but we need a new one. We want to turn on purple light. Okay? And we'll hit continue. Continue again. And then we're going to search for the flow that we just created. Okay? So we'll type in TechNow, and we'll see TechNow Purple Alert, which is the one that we just created. Again, within that flow, we just had an action to tell the Govee light to go turn purple. Okay? So we're going to say continue. We're going to save and enable. Okay. Now your purple alert should work theoretically, right? So if you'll watch the window over here, and while I pull up the digital twin here, we're going to pop that back in a refrigerator. We'll watch our digital twin drop. Watch the humidity drop. And once we get below 30, we'll see that thing turn purple, right? Assuming we did everything correctly and I didn't miss a step. While that's happening, because you can keep an eye over here in the bottom right, and just know that it's dropping here so you understand the concept of the digital twin. But just for the sake of time, because we only have about 12 minutes left, I want to show you this action and show you that behind the scenes, with ServiceNow, you really have this ecosystem. You have this kind of a one-stop shop, this palette of tools to take action on this data, right? Using connected operations, using our out-of-the-box platform capabilities of Integration Hub and Flow Designer to actually go take action on these things, okay? And we may have to modify because I might not get down below 30, but we'll keep watching that. We'll keep an eye on the webcam down here while I show the action. So we're at 38 right now. So let's jump back over and show you the action for what it's worth, where we were able to define the communication to the Govee lamp. So earlier we defined some things within the flow that we wanted our user to be able to pick. One of those was color. So we had some predefined color, which has RGB values assigned to them. So red, we had red, green, purple. We even did black so that we can shut the light off. We did white, so we defined multiple colors. For the Govee REST API, they need the MAC address and the model of the device. So we needed that as an input, right? So then we turn that into a put call, right? And so in that request body, when we send the request back to Govee, we're saying, hey, this device with this model needs to set its color to whatever the customer picked, right? So this repetitive spoke that you can put into a subflow can be called here, right? So you've got your spoke defined within the action. And I'll tell you what, we're going to make a real-time change because 30 wasn't cutting it. So let's jump back over into our rule and let's edit it, right? It's this simple. So we'll say
31.
What's that? Oh, is it down to 30?
It says 38.
Yeah, I'm watching the pie display. 78 temp.
Oh,
It's going to be a little different. Yeah, the pie is actually. Let's go below 39, which means, by the way, we have to go change our. We'll enable that one. Yeah, we'll have to change our green one because
they're going to fight for each other.
They will fight for each other.
It's going to flash back and forth.
You just don't see that on Star Trek that often. Red alert! No, wait.
Yeah, wait. Just wait. Yeah.
Purple alert. What is that?
So we'll actually disable that one and jump back over into purple. Okay. Now that we disabled the green alert and let purple take over, we see that because it's less than 39, we now have turned that light purple. So today, I hope that I've been able to demonstrate the power of ServiceNow platform. That's really right, my goal, my job. But hopefully could articulate the simplicity really in taking data and taking action on it using our platform. Right. So we've got this end-to-end workflow that ultimately delivers business results. As I mentioned before, whether you're turning a light a different color or you're dispatching a field team with the parts needed to fix that device that you've already defined, you're delivering those business results, right? And then really the goal is to connect our team, so as I mentioned, to faster remediation, and then taking action on that data to gain that competitive advantage. Because, again, if we're being reactive, we're not ahead of the curve. But if we can see the data that we've brought in and taken action on and understand that, we can take action ahead of time, right? But before we see those the rises and the falls, we can actually anticipate and expect those. So hopefully I was able to demonstrate that today, and I'm always available for more questions because there's a lot behind the scenes that needs to be configured, and hopefully I showed you today the many ways that you can configure the data and the rules to take action on those. So back over to you, Chuck.
All right, before we get into the final Q&A, and we've got a couple of questions that I want to spotlight in just a second. Just quick reference information. If you're watching live, you've obviously got the resource panel that you can choose from. If you're watching this later, here are some links that we invite you to check out over for documentation. We mentioned the developer portal earlier. We've got lots and lots of episodes of ServiceNow's TechNow episodes going back to 2013. Again, I thought I changed this link at one point.
devlink.sn/TechNow. You have one job.
Must be revision control. We need a doc control system in ServiceNow because I think Jeremy and I are probably fighting over slides. So any questions that you've got, if we don't answer them live, we will certainly answer them afterwards and put them in the community article that is there. So, Jeremy, I got a question for you.
Sure.
I've done some simple IoT stuff like where my Pi sends directly to the instance or perhaps a mid server. What is the part that makes this scalable? So you mentioned like 5,000 transactions a second. Certainly I wouldn't be able to do that if I had a whole bunch of devices just firing at the instance.
Yeah, so that is the value that Connected Ops and IoT Bridge bring to the equation, right? Because again, the concept of ServiceNow taking data, whether it's pushing a button, right? Hey, I need more of this. We'll go do that, right? That we've had that, right? With open API capabilities, REST, we give you that capability. But this product, specifically Connected Operations and IoT Bridge, just opens the door to expand that to a larger set of data. And it also gives you the power of, like we experienced in Workspace, of configuring without coding, right? So you're defining a rule, you're picking an asset that's already defined, you're defining a rule using a simple flow. You're enabling business users to go make these calls if you want to, right? Obviously, you have to do the work on the back end to connect up, create spokes and things like that using the power of the platform. But you're putting that back in the hands of the folks that your technical subject matter experts. Let's put it that way, because you're probably not going to put some guy in finance building rules, right? But theoretically, you could with the ease of use. So.
Okay, and is IoT Bridge something that the customer sets up, or is that a service that we offer that how does that fit into the architecture?
Sure. So the bridge is infrastructure that you don't see as the customer and you don't set up. We set that up. So if you become a connected operations customer, as you talk to your account team and you want to do IoT, you purchase connected operations. The bridge comes as a part of that. I mention the bridge only as the mechanism that sits between so that you identify that. But we, in short, we set that up for you and control that for you.
All right, I do have a question that I want to spotlight out of the chat from Jayesh, I hope I said that closely. He said, how long does it take to set up the configuration for these connected operations? If I've got 100 devices, how long is that going to take? And I am going to thank our men behind the scenes on the Q&A today. Varun, thank you very much. Stealing from his answer, hashtag safe harbor, safe harbor, safe harbor. We do have, right now it is a manual process, and we're working on a way to do that import and set up very quickly. And he also added a note, if they've got the same, the digital twin signature or device type definition, you can go even faster. So it's kind of this template approach to doing that. So watch for that. We are, I believe you said, again, hashtag safe harbor. Jeremy, didn't you say like a lot of this stuff will be available for general availability in Q1 of 2022? Mm-hmm.
Yep,
excellent.
That's the goal.
Excellent.
Yes.
And Jason had a question around security. Jason said, how do we ensure the security of the input device to prevent points of entry for digital threats? And again, relying on Varun's answer, thank you very much. He said, the data to connected ops is encrypted and protected both in transit and at rest. When it's in transit, it's always done via SSL over HTTPS, and at rest using native security mechanisms of the database. Regarding the security of the device itself, we rely on the hardware vendor providing the device to handle that. So security is always in mind when you've got things communicating. So I am looking at the clock. We are right up against it. There are a couple more questions that are being answered. So thank you very much, Jeremy, for the info today. Great stuff on IoT. And always fun to watch a light change. I don't know about you, but I never get tired of hooking things together.
They're flicking the light off and on in your room.
but it has to be with like an Amazon button that goes back and forth and goes through this complex, convoluted way. I don't just turn lights on in this house.
Yeah, right.
And thank you, everybody who attended today. Again, if we didn't get your question answered, we will have those in the community at the end of the day. Oh, you got one more thing, Jeremy?
No, I was just saying thank you. I was waving. Thank you very much.
Oh, all right. Then let's wave, play the music, and get out of here. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.